impression of a movie is like, did I like that in my gut? Like, what was my subjective feeling towards it? But I think the thing that informs our subjective feeling toward movies are these categories that we have in our head.
Yeah, I do agree there, and like it helps you kind of understand what that gut feeling is. The more I think about ranking movies, and I'm sick, guys. I'm at movie 1248 for my list.
What does that mean?
Wait. Are you talking about because you got that app that No, you weren't there that episode.
I started.
What is this?
Spreadsheet. It's got 1,200 movies so
you son
I'm
of a...
What?
I'm sick.
Stop it. What is this spreadsheet? These are
Ranking. It's just ranking movies.
movies
saying-
that movies you've seen.
Yeah.
And you're at number 1,248?
Yeah.
Ranking movies?
Yeah. I'm sick.
David.
David, you gotta
What's
get this
wrong
app
with
that
you?
Brandon
I
has.
have that app. But it's only in stars. That's not enough granularity.
Oh, it's not 2 decimal places.
No.
So wait, what are you talking about? You can't objectively...
So-
this
no,
is
but
your
I'm-
subjective ranking.
So what I'm saying, is that like, it's hard because like I can parse all this information that I have as someone who reviews films and like understands whatever, and I can give it like a score, but that's not actually about how much I like it. It's just like a breakdown of the objective elements that I know, and that's what's like hard is how do I rank. It's a different ranking for how much I like something versus how good something is.
Sure.
Wait, what? It is?
For sure.
Like when you're giving a movie, like you're saying this movie is a 9.5. I don't like it, but it's a 9.5.
Well,
Why would
I
you
mean,
do that?
You wouldn't get to a 9.5 without me liking it. And what I'm saying is that all ranking is meaningless because it's always a combo of both. It's always a combination of objective knowledge and subjective experience.
Well, okay, I guess I agree with you that like there is no way to truly objectively rank movies as like, and this is what it is. It's as true as gravity or whatever.
No.
But like,
We can all agree.
basically, we can basically say this movie's better than this movie. Like, I don't think we can rate them to that level of granularity where you have a list of 1,000 movies and they're perfectly ordered.
And it's a zero-sum game. They can't be on the same level. One's above another one.
In order of quality, you can't have that. But you can say, Star Wars: A New Hope is better than this movie.
That's fair. But I think
The Last Jedi?
when you rank, you always have to qualify what you're ranking and like what the weighted score is. And
I'm still hung up on the fact that you're ranking things outside of whether or not you like them. Like, I'm trying to understand what that's like. It's like, I really appreciate how sick of a song Thriller is, but now that I know that he likes Little Boy's Bumholes, I don't like the song Thriller. So I give it a 9, but when I listen to it, I feel like a 5.
Okay, so I see what you're
Is that
saying.
what's going on here?
I find it's more weighted the other way, where I'll like something that I know is bad, and so
Then it's good.
in my
Okay, now we're getting into it.
What's
like-
wrong with you?
So you think if you like something but acknowledge objectively that it's bad,
There's something about it that's good. That's why you like it. Unless you really are self-aware enough to be like, guys, look, I really like the song Rapture by Blondie. It's a white woman rapping. Everyone hates it, but my mom used to listen to it a lot when I was a kid, and that's why I like it.
Okay.
What
okay.
about-
How about wait? What about this? Keeping Up with the Kardashians, right? Bad show. All right. Technically, maybe there's some technical aspects that are executed well as far as reality shows go, but like as far as the entire spectrum of possible TV shows, it's a bad show.
pretty low, yeah.
Right? But a lot of people love that show. They really like that show.
Yeah.
But
Well, there's
that-
obviously an
people
element
liking,
to it.
People liking that show doesn't mean that it's a good show.
That means there's an element of it that is working, though. That's just like saying,
but
is Candy Crush a great game? Compared to God of War 3.
Well, okay.
No, but it's hitting that part in your brain that makes you keep playing.
It's great at exploiting some human system that is weak and is unable to resist it.
So are the Kardashians.
Okay, but that's we get into a whole discussion of what's your axiomatic rating system for quality in shows. If your axiom is that a show is good when it tricks people into watching it over and over and over, then yeah, it's a good show. But I don't think that's a good axiom to have.
Yeah,
I think you might, because you might say, oh, this book, I couldn't put it down. Or this show, the episode ended, I had to put another episode on. That's one metric by which we measure success.
By that measure, potato chips are good because you can't stop eating them.
They are good.
They taste good,
Yeah.
but are they good food? No.
Yeah. Okay. So my question is,
Well,
for,
what's the rating? Is the rating on whether it is
We're
it
starting a new
is it,
podcast.
is it nutrition out of 10, or is it like good for me eating these right now for a movie?
Well,
out of
maybe
10?
Anyone who's confused because we're talking about food now, just translate it to movies, okay?
yeah. So my question is like, what about movies like the Mario Brothers, where they're so bad they're good, where you're laughing at how bad the movie is, that you're like, and you enjoy that aspect of it? Does
No.
that now boost the movie back up, or is it now some nega rating where it's like -7 because it's enjoyable like a 7, but it's so bad and it's a 0? And I don't
Now
know.
that's interesting. Like
That's
the
an interesting-
Room, right?
Yeah, like-
Yeah.
You're like, this movie sucks, but it sucks so hard. We're in like this negative part of the scale. It's like a circle. It's like a snake eating its tail, and I'm laughing suddenly.
See, okay, so to the question of like what these ratings are made of, when we rate our movies, is that primarily a subjective rating or an objective rating? An attempt at a objective
There's
rating.
no such
Yeah,
thing.
it's an
yeah,
attempt.
there's no such thing as a truly objective rating.
What I'll
but-
tell you though is, if you ever see a movie rating for me that has a negative sign in front of it, that means it went full circle. Like a negative 10
we're
is like, this
there.
movie's so
That should
garbage,
be-
but I'm laughing.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
having the best time.
Oh no, but then Doolittle should have been a negative
No,
rating.
but we weren't having a good
I
time.
wasn't
Oh,
having a
that
good
was
you're
just
right.
bad.
You're right.
It wasn't bad enough.
Yeah.
So you guys will know when we review a movie that's so bad
Cats-
that it's good.
Cats,
it'll
I'm
have
giving
a
it a
negative
new rating, like -6, because it's like 6. I had a 6 level of enjoyment overall. It's too long. It's a crap movie, but like I definitely enjoyed parts of it.
No, I'm giving it -1.
-1.
I'm updating to -1 because I liked a little bit. The thing is, you need friends. You can't do this kind of stuff alone. Don't watch The Room or Sharknado
Yeah,
alone. You
that's
watch it with
true.
friends,
Yeah,
and then
that's
you
true.
hate on it together and have
Sure.
fun.
Yeah.
For me, the ratings that we do every week are as close to an objective rating as possible. I try not to put in like my particular liking for it as much as possible. Like we'll see, if we ever did Star Wars, I would hopefully not rate them based on like I really love this movie and instead rate it as a film.
Yeah.
Because, this is what I do for The Last Jedi, right? Where I'm like The Last Jedi made me really angry. And I spent a lot of time thinking about how stupid parts of that movie were. But at the end of the day, here we are, what, 3 years later?
You're not gonna be like, it's a 2.
Yeah,
'Cause it's obviously
yeah,
not.
It's
The acting and the effects.
objectively a decent film.
Yeah.
But I don't like it because of what it means to Star Wars.
So what's the modifier we put in front of it? Like division? The divider?
A modulus.
But, yeah.
Modulus.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
We're
I
making
don't know.
this so complicated.
No, I love it. This is great.
What are we gonna do next? Is our
Yeah, what's the
we
next
don't have
movie?
a plan for the next like month, eh?
Oh no.
We gotta do some Tarantino stuff, guys.
Yeah,
That'd be
We
nice.
got
that
to.
would be good. Although
Get some feet in
Tarantino
here.
is probably in the same sort of wheelhouse as Edgar Wright, right?
See,
What do
It's
you-
a little deeper.
What are you talking about?
What?
What do you mean?
Well, they're kind of like titillating a little bit,
Tarantino's on a different level than. I'm not
Tar-
even saying
I think-
quality level, although I would defend that opinion. I'm just saying like thematically and like vibeness.
Yeah.
It's like a whole different thing.
I'd
Yeah,
say
Well, he's better. You're saying.
Well, I'm saying both. I enjoy his movies more than. I haven't seen that many Edgar Wright movies.
You think?
Come
Edgar
on,
Wright's
you're
a
gonna
better?
put like Scott Pilgrim beside like Pulp Fiction? Like, come on.
yeah, I am. I'm gonna say Scott Pilgrim's better than Pulp Fiction. Yeah, Pulp Fiction is a good movie, but it's not like that good.
Scott
It's
Pilgrim.
interesting. Yeah, Scott Pilgrim like is incredible.
Well, then why didn't we do it today?
Because people are dumb.
people like Baby Driver
Hey,
more.
don't call our audience.
Okay, we're gonna do a Tarantino vote. How about that?
But wait, they were pretty close. Scott Pilgrim was the other one,
What was
right?
the other one? Yeah.
It was like 2% behind or something.
No, frankly, probably fewer people saw it, and it was like,
Yeah.
well, it was
I mean,
2010.
Edgar Wright's total box office is like less than like 300 million or something, like everything combined. Whereas like a Tarantino movie will make 500 mil to him, like a bill. Like he's obviously a much more popular filmmaker.
Well,
500
now-
500 mil to a bill.
500 mil to a bill.
Now, his biggest commercial success was Inglourious Bastards, and they've been big since. But like when you're talking Reservoir Dogs and Kill Bill and Pulp Fiction, that was way lower.
Man, I would love to do Inglorious Bastards.
We'll do that eventually. We'll do a poll.
Or we should do Kill Bill, I guess, eh?
No one's gonna vote for Kill Bill, but it's the best.
Okay, we'll
Okay,
do.
Pulp
So
Fiction,
we're doing
Kill Bill,
Tarantino this week.
Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill, Inglourious Bastards, and
I haven't seen the most recent one.
Hateful Eight. I don't want to do.
No, that's
What?
not. No,
No,
Once
the-
Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Hollywood.
Once Upon- no, I don't
Django
wanna do that either.
Unchained.
Ooh.
He wrote True Lies.
I think Django
Not
and
True Lies, True Romance.
if we want to do Inglourious Bastards, I wouldn't suggest Django Unchained because I find they're so similar they would split the vote.
They are
They're
pretty
s-
similar.
What?
yeah.
You think they're
Well,
They're the same movie.
In terms of
What?
like freedom fighter kind of fighting
It's
for justice
revenge porn
type of thing.
Yeah, just history, alternate history revenge
One's
porn.
killing racists, one's killing
Racist.
racists.
Yeah, but I
It's
feel
Nazis
like,
and
I feel like
slavers.
Inglourious Bastards is so much better than Django. I only watched Django once in the theater. I'll check it out again.
I think Inglourious Bastards is better, but they're the same movie.
Okay, guys,
is-
I don't. This is really inside baseball, but I don't want to put. Bastards in the poll because it will definitely win, and I want to do a different movie, and we'll definitely do Bastards at some point.
And it's a swear word. And I
It's
don't-
spelled wrong.
That's true. So it's fine.
We should put more early Tarantino
Sure.
in it.
Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, True Romance.
Ooh. Pulp Fiction will win.
Yeah.
Fantastic, Mr. Fox.
From Dusk Till Dawn.
Hey guys, if you want some input or you want to vote in that poll, then check us out on Twitter at Carpool Critics. And also, can you please just tweet some mean stuff at us? All we ever hear from you guys is like, hey, I love the show. Here's my favorite movie. Can you please cover it? But I want to know how we can get better.
Just really take us down a notch.
Tell me something like, hey, James, we hate this way that you stumble on words sometimes.
Yeah, nice.
David,
Just
we
like
hate your
right
nose
there.
breathing. Can, like someone just
Mouth breathing.
give us
Riley, we don't like your face.
turn the camera off of that guy. Give us some feedback so we can make this better and reach even more ears.
Because we love yours.
You can email us a treatise on why you hate our podcast at
Treatise.
carpoolcriticspodcast@gmail.com.
We're on Twitter and email because we're modern men.
Email is like ancient at this point. Hi, everybody in podcast land and also on YouTube. I'm James.
I'm David.
I'm Riley.
I missed out. I didn't know we were doing that. Okay, this is the Carpool Critics movie podcast where today we are covering The Mitchells vs. the Machines, an animated movie from the creators of Enter the Spider-Verse.
Spoiler alert! That's kind of like thematically related to this movie
It's
because
a
it's so crazy.
And this is a spoiler podcast.
Yes.
And if you're on our convoy of listeners who watch movies ahead of time to follow along to this podcast, next week we're doing 2003's Old Boy, Korean movie, very wacky. if you've seen this or heard of it, you know what we're getting into. So join us for that. But today, it's The Mitchells versus the Machines all day. So David, what are you giving this movie out of 10?
It may take too long to lay the groundwork for its threadbare arcs, but The Mitchells vs. the Machines provides very high-quality laughs, a striking and unique aesthetic, and the bare minimum everywhere else to make my machine heart grow half a size.
Wow.
8 out of 10.
Wow.
I liked it.
8 out of 10 is like, I'll throw it an 8.
I'm a little bit conflicted. My score was lower, but then the more I thought about it and the more other movies I compared it to, I'm like, I did like that better than Onward.
Yeah.
I think I like it almost as much as Soul, and I want to, like, posthumously, that's not the right word, but you understand what I'm saying, lower my score of Soul and Onward just a little bit.
Interesting.
Retroactively.
Yeah, retroactively.
Oh, man.
Bradley, you're up.
I almost went through the exact same thought process. Here's my slogan. The Mitchells versus the Machines may veer more towards quantity than quality at times, but it's a sensory feast and a thrilling journey, chock full of weird people, family values, and undiagnosed ADHD. 7.75 out of 10.
Yeah.
I went to the 0.25 increments for this one because I had the same struggle. I was like, how do I feel? I don't know. Like, it was fun, but I wasn't crying at the end like I was for Onward a little bit.
Yeah.
They had the feels in that movie. This one is visually stunning and narratively fine. The Mitchells vs. the Machines is a must-watch for families who can only watch family movies, and sure, no reason to avoid it for everyone else.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we're all completely aligned.
Totally.
It is difficult to score it because it's it's kind of a bimodal score. Like
Yeah.
you got the one hump where it's like, well, it was just okay. Like David said at the beginning, kind of took a while to get going. But then there's moments that are so funny
so
Yeah.
and so awesome. So like you guys, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
We're all in this. Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
not like us. That's a different score than either
Well-
of us gave it.
Well, it's in the same ballpark, and I did
guess
consider
so.
doing a 7.25.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Could have been as low as a 6.75.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Tragedy avoided.
I think it'll be really fun to discuss how this movie breaks down after we break down our sponsor.
Oh, are you riding a Segway? Just kidding, they're not a sponsor. This video is brought to you by Manscaped and their brand new 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. It offers ceramic blades with skin-safe technology, reducing nicks and cuts that can easily be replaced with a fresh blade. This time around, it has a wireless charging system that's compatible with most Qi charging pads, so no need to bring cables with you, and it lasts 90 minutes on a full charge, so you probably don't have to think about it at all, really. The Lawnmower 4.0 is waterproof, it's wireless, and it includes 4 different trimmer guards, so check it out at the link below and get 20% off plus free international shipping when you use the promo code CARPOOL20.
Okay, I
Upgrade.
will.
I need to upgrade.
We're also brought to you by Private Internet Access VPN. PIA helps you hide your true IP address so that you can bypass geo restrictions and censorship. You can connect up to 10 devices at once, and it includes an internet kill switch
Dog, pig, loaf of bread.
if your VPN gets disconnected involuntarily. PIA is available for Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, and even as a Kotlin Chrome extension, so check it out at your lmg.gg/carpoolcritics location near you.
This is why it's important for people to watch the movie before they listen to the episode, because if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you
Dog
haven't
pig.
seen-
Dog
When
pig,
you're watching the
dog
movie,
pig.
do you think, oh, that's gonna be my,
No.
that's gonna be my
No, well, in the
Yep.
best of times, I prepare it ahead of time, and most of the time, I'm just like, while you're reading it, I'm like,
But you just continually pull out like some of the best moments.
James, thank you.
Well, actually, not continually.
Yeah.
Couple
There's
stinkers
hits and
recently.
misses. Okay, we'll say that.
Just like this movie.
Just like this movie. Hey, want to remember what happened in it?
What happened in this movie?
Okay.
Honestly, I kind of forgot. By the, I watched it Saturday, and
A
I'm like,
lot
what did
happened.
happen in this movie?
Oh man, here we go. When creative outsider Katie Mitchell is accepted into film school, she can't wait to leave home and find her people. But her nature-obsessed dad, Rick, insists on taking her mom, Linda, brother, Aaron, and dog, Munchie? Monchi? I forget how they say it. Monchi. On a totally not awkward or forced road trip to college. Meanwhile, tech executive Mark Bowman unveils a new line of robots to replace his popular AI assistant, Pal. In revenge, Pal commandeers the robots and begins capturing humans worldwide to launch them into space. After evading capture, Katie convinces Rick to help save the world. So with the help of 2 defective robots, Eric and Deborah Bot 5000, they head to a nearby mall to upload Pal's kill code. A battle with AI appliances and a giant Furby ensues, destroying the mall's router, so the family heads to Silicon Valley to upload the kill code directly. But Pal captures Rick and Linda and reprograms Eric and Deborah Bot, forcing Katie and Aaron to hide. Watching recordings of her childhood on her camera, Katie realizes that Rick gave up on his dream of living in the woods to care for his daughter. Reinvigorated, she returns to Pal's lair, using Munchie's confusing appearance to cause the robots to malfunction. With Mark's help, Rick and Linda free themselves and plan to play Katie's video of Munchie to short-circuit all the robots, but Rick is stopped by robots as he struggles to use a computer. Pal captures Aaron and Katie, who explains to Pal that relationships are hard and people are different, but families are still worth fighting for. Pal ignores her and drops Katie to fall to her death. Eric and Deborah Bot, inspired by Rick's reprogramming that allowed him to use a computer, upload Katie's video and save her mid-fall, allowing her to find and drop Pal into water, freeing all the humans and disabling all the robots except for Eric and Deborah Bot. A few months later, Katie finally makes it to college and later joins her family on another road trip to DC to accept the Congressional Medal of Honor. Wow, that's about as good of an ending as you could hope for.
Yeah.
It's Star Wars ending, baby.
National heroes, it's true.
Manchi gets a medal though, unlike Chewbacca.
Oh.
I'm just joking. I don't
Wait,
even
does
know.
he? Yeah,
I
no,
don't
it
know.
doesn't show up.
This is a joke.
That'd be pretty funny though, as an homage.
Yeah, her dad should have stayed in the woods. Why not? You can raise kids in the woods.
Yeah, that was a plot point that I was a bit confused about. Where I'm like, wait, why couldn't he just like make her like a survivalist girl in the
She could have been a free kid.
homeschool? Yeah.
You know we have those here in BC, free kids.
What's
I know
that?
someone who met a free kid. Like a kid who doesn't have like a birth certificate. The government doesn't know about the kid.
Oh.
Like just a totally off-grid
Are
person.
they like feral?
No, they have like they're raised by a family.
Of
They
wolves?
live in a house.
They just are.
They just are not known about by the state.
House Reed Rock Cave.
I think though
How
that,
literary.
that's kind of indicative of how this movie handles a lot of its ideas or its emotionality. Is it paints really broad strokes. It's like, hey, he was a nature guy. We're not going to explain why they have to come to the city.
Yeah.
But like they had to. He had to sacrifice for her, and it's like it's fine to me. It's just like okay, yeah, that's not what the movie's focusing on. It's doing the absolute minimum to make that work.
Well, it does do double duty because it's like he needed something to sacrifice. That becomes important later that he gave up on dreams for her. But also it sets like thematically he is an anachronism. Like he loves nature and oldie timey stuff, and
Yep.
she is very of the moment and me and internet is my life, and she's Zoomer AF.
Yeah.
I like that about the movie. That it's the movie. Like this movie could have easily landed in the like cell phones are bad camp and been like, oh yeah, we need to connect with our families, and it does a little bit of that. But I think it also goes on a little bit past that to be like, hey, there is good things about the internet. Like this connectivity we have through the internet isn't all bad.
Yeah, I will say that the movie does seem to do a decent job of like presenting a nuanced picture of the whole thing, where it's
Yeah.
like we're gonna make fun of the fact that people are glued to their cell phones, but at the same time, the thing that I mean, like the conversation that Rick has with Mark at the end, where he has that great line where he's like, maybe stealing everyone's data and feeding it to a hyper intelligent AI in order to, as part of an unregulated tech monopoly, was a bad idea. And he's like, yeah, that wasn't your best thought. But then he's like, but it let my daughter make these videos.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a good thing also. So
And
it
they-
kind of captures both sides.
And they
of it.
only do that like twice in the movie. They don't
Yeah.
really hit you over the head with it, but it is there for the adults in
Yeah.
the room, so it's cool.
The only moment I hated was when it's like they're first capturing the humans and they're like free Wi-Fi and all the humans are just like running towards the pods. I'm like, that's a little dumb.
There are
But
definitely
it's funny.
Yeah, there are definitely parts of this movie where I'm like, okay, I get the joke you're trying to do. It's pretty on the nose and pretty, like, for lack of a better word, cringe, where I'm just like, okay, I get it. But then a lot of the time, to its credit, it just keeps going with the joke. Like, it starts off with a joke and you're like, I get it, but this isn't funny to me. But they go through so many permutations of that one joke really quickly that I end up laughing at a lot of them.
Like what?
And a great example is the end when Rick is trying to use the computer, like in the epilogue, and he's like, yeah, I'm pretty good with computers now or whatever, and it cuts to him like
Oh, yeah.
screaming and bashing the keyboard, and he's like, ah, blah, blah, blah.
Crying in the
and,
corner.
And there are like 3 or 4 little like mini skits in that joke, and one of them is him crying in the corner.
Yeah, that got
and
me.
that's where it got
Yeah,
me.
same.
So I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you got me.
Yeah,
But,
you're
like,
right. Because at the first shot cut away, I was like,
Yeah.
And it got funnier and funnier.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
I-
And the same thing
yeah.
kind of with the robots. They start off being like, okay, we're gonna do this like, oh, hello, fellow humans, but then they keep going with it,
Yeah.
and they end up being really funny.
I
See-
thought they were great comic relief. I like
Yeah.
them.
I
Yeah.
like. See, I kind of have a more of a bell curve with them, where I grew to like them very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
In the first scene, and I think by the time they like go to the basement and draw on their faces, I was like, yeah, this is funny. But then at the end, I felt like I don't know, like the end. I didn't enjoy them as much. Like I didn't find them as funny.
Oh, really?
But I do like that they're part of like the main plot, that they kind of save the day. I don't know. I found a few things in this movie. The joke went on too long, or
For
came
sure.
back too many times.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
During that epilogue, like another montage of him using the computer, I was like, isn't this movie over? What the hell?
I think
Yeah.
the worst one for me was the mom. I think the first time she goes like Super Saiyan and kills all the robots, it killed me. And the
Oh, yeah.
Kill Bill music comes on, and she's like, ah! But then the second time it happens, when she comes back and she's flying on the robot, I was like, yeah.
Oh,
I get
really?
it. I get it.
I don't know. I completely love that. I mean, that's a exception to this rule that I think I'm talking about, where like when she comes back and she's just like a badass warrior, I'm just like, hell yeah, Linda. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. I was into it. There's such a funny shot when she's like, she goes insane because it's like mom strength from seeing her children in danger. And so I think that's kind of funny because we know that trope, but this is like taking to the next
Yeah.
level. And so then when she comes, or she stabs the robot in the head and like the blood goes on her face. It's not
Well, that's
blood,
the
but
first time. I think that whole sequence the
Yeah.
first time is hilarious. Because,
Yeah.
yeah, it has 2 different Kill Bill musical stings.
Oh, yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm into this.
2 Kill Bill references in this movie, hey?
Yeah.
And a couple. The first one is the bam, 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 where they're like gearing up, like badass montage walking.
Yeah.
And then what was the second one? Yeah. When you see your enemy. Da, da, da.
Yeah.
As we like to do, let's talk about the good stuff.
Yeah.
For me, one of the biggest good points for this movie is the animation.
Oh, it's awesome.
It looks amazing.
Yeah.
It's clearly 3D animated, but like the textures on everything, kind of like
So flat.
well, and they seem like hand drawn. Like there's like kind of squiggles on
It's like
stuff.
cell
sometimes.
shaded.
Well, it's
It's-
built on the same lighting engine that Into the Spider-Verse is, and that has
Okay.
such a it's the same studio,
Right.
and so it has like such a comic or like a hand-drawn aesthetic.
Yeah.
And even the little things like the shading isn't like physically based, where it's like, oh yeah, his shoulders there starts the shading.
Right.
It's little brush strokes.
Yeah, that's
that
what I'm seeing.
simulate
That's what I mean.
it. Same with like textures on walls. Like the planks really stood out to me. Like in a Pixar movie, it'd be very photorealistic planks of wood that are realistically degraded, but here it's just like a rectangle with fucking brushstrokes on it. And
Yeah.
it works for what they're going for. And I think it's smart to not compete on a technical level with Pixar and Disney,
Totally.
but to totally just take it somewhere else and express yourself
The
using
thing that
animation.
stood out to me was the characters' eyes who wear glasses. Their eyes look super flat, which kind of makes sense because, like, if I'm looking through at your eyes through glasses, I'm looking at like an abstraction of your eye. They're a little bit enlarged,
Right,
and
right.
they kind of are flatter.
Yeah.
And they totally just serve to be like, I'm looking at a 2D thing in a 3D world, and it looked utterly
Oh,
You mean
unique.
they had that same sort of like refraction?
No,
of-
it's
of
just
the
like an
eyes?
eye was the shape of the.
Like they
glasses.
didn't distort the glasses didn't distort anything. Is that what you're saying?
No, they do.
Oh, okay.
They make the eyes look flatter than the rest of the character,
Right.
and a little bit bigger.
Do you guys notice what they were doing with the noses too? Because if you're hand drawing a nose, generally you're only drawing like one side of the nose,
Right.
like where they turn, and they did that in this movie where the nose would be like rendered to one side, and when the character would switch head, it would flip.
What?
Like it wasn't like 3D placed; it was like a hand drawn thing in 3D
Like it's
space.
Are you
binary.
sure?
Yeah,
This side or that
yeah,
side?
yeah. Saw that a
What?
couple times. It might not be the entire movie, but I noticed that like several times.
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking, I was actually thinking about their noses because I was like, yo, Dad has like a giant hook nose, and
Yeah.
like her nose is also like a little bit hooked, but then Katie's nose is like a button situation where
Yeah.
it scoops the opposite way. I'm like, that's not.
It might not be all of them. I think it was the dad where I noticed where it's just like the nose is 3D space, but there's only the accented like shading on the one side, and then that'll flip when they flip sides. So it's to simulate a
Right.
hand drawn effect.
Welcome to the nose cast, everybody.
I
The-
thought it was so cool. I think the aesthetic is really great just on its own, but then when they incorporate all the sci-fi stuff, and they did such a good design on all the sci-fi stuff, like the tractor beam when the robots shoot the tractor beam and catch stuff, it looks so cool.
yeah, it does look really cool.
That's what's great about the style that these guys use is like, it's almost like mixed media, where you've got this. It looks hand drawn. This just looks like RTX on.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many little tiny details where you're like, you didn't have to do that. Like the tractor beam, it's a gradient of colors.
Yeah.
And it's not like a rainbow situation. It's like it's like 2 or 3 or 4 colors.
Yeah, well, and it's like polygons on top, and so
And-
it's using
yeah.
that to separate the
And
colors.
so like
It
they
looks
could
so
just be
good.
like, there's a tractor beam, it's
Yeah.
blue.
Yep.
But they're like, no, we have all this like extra detail going on.
Well, and
They're so artistic.
even the little things like when they step into the rhombus of infinite subjugation.
Oh, the big Ethereum logo.
yeah.
Big
It's a
Ethereum.
great name, first off. But then the lighting, the rules, the properties of the lighting totally
Yeah.
change, and it just has such a different aesthetic. But somehow they incorporate the hand-drawn look of these characters into that space, but they still look out of place.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
man,
similar to
it's
Soul
so
in that
good.
way. Soul
Totally.
had this kind of character
Totally.
as well, where they go to different areas and the different animation styles. But this movie also had another layer, which was the editing.
Yeah.
Which was cool because it had harmony with the main character, where suddenly it's like almost like you're watching a YouTube video. It just cuts to something ridiculous, or it cuts to a completely different art style.
Yeah.
And what I thought was really brilliant about it was, normally if you're watching a movie that has a narrator, in this case it's Katie, you go from I'm watching a movie, which is kind of like I'm omniscient, to it's from this character's perspective. Whoever's
Right.
reading me the story is telling me their perspective. And then we get that here with her as the narrator, but the editing and the other like kind of meta visuals that get drawn on top of the movie, they make now I'm really inside of her head. Like
Yeah.
I'm really seeing the world the way that she sees it, which I thought was really cool.
I thought that was cool. I think that there are some moments where it really, really works, but I think most of the time I just thought they were a bit annoying. It was visual overload, and I think this movie, even if it didn't have any of the extra 2D animated stuff like on top of it, like you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like little cartoons that
the
pop up.
like hearts and
Yeah. Even if it didn't have any of that stuff, it would still be super busy visually. And so when that there are times when I was like, that's kind of cool how they did that. But on other times I'm just like, stop, there's too much on screen, and I want to look at everything. Maybe this is just like me, like a quirk of my personality.
Well, you're
but, like,
millennial.
what?
You're just a millennial, because younger people are
As
gonna
opposed to Gen Z.
yeah, they're gonna be like they're used to filters and stuff like that. There's
Like I
always,
don't need to analyze the granularity, the tiny details of things. It's just like it's here and it's gone.
No, you're too slow
I'm
to
well,
appreciate
definitely-
all the stuff.
That's definitely me and as a person, not necessarily all millennials,
Yeah.
but like for me as a person, for sure, like things pop up and I'm like, this is cool. I want to see all of it, but then it's gone before I can like even see what it was.
I think though that's the stuff that like I'm sure kids are gonna love this movie and
Yeah.
want to rewatch it, and that's the stuff they'll catch more and more as you keep rewatching. You'll notice little extra animations, like the dog with the long hair, like taking its legs in the corner and stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's lots of little gags that work.
And they I feel like it could be good for rewatching for kids.
Totally.
Because then they're like they kind of get to know the little animations. Like the one that I'm thinking of is at the end when Katie's driving the car into the lair for the second time.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
driving the car in the lair using Munchie as a distraction, and beside the car, in the tunnel, there are these like dogs running, but they're switching between dogs and pigs and loaves of bread.
Oh yeah.
So it's like a little animated creature
That's
running, and it's like
hilarious.
dog pig, loaf of bread, dog pig,
Yeah.
and it's cycling between them, and it's like, you know, it's like a 4-second shot or
Yeah.
whatever. But like
So
I didn't
much.
see it until I went back and watched it
I
again.
did
I
not
was
see
like,
that
wait,
at
what?
all.
That was there the
That's
whole time.
hilarious.
I saw it.
I love that.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
that's an example where I'm like, that's kind of a cool little background detail. But like there are other times where I'm like, stop.
Yeah, I found like they do the Mimi stuff a
Oh my
bit too much, and
gosh.
some of it is I think it's the stuff that feels old that works the least well. Like I think the first time that it cuts between the dad and the screaming, howling
Kill
monkey
me.
was kind of funny.
Kill me.
But then they return to that joke, and I'm like, it wasn't that funny the first time. It's not great in your like climax
I
moment.
hated that.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
Because like we're starting off with this like.
Uh,
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
that's an example where I'm like, that's kind of a cool little background detail. But like there are other times where I'm like, stop.
yeah, I found like they do the Mimi stuff a
Oh my
bit too much, and
gosh.
some of it is I think it's the stuff that feels old that works the least well. Like I think the first time that it cuts between the dad and the screaming, howling
Kill
monkey
me.
was kind of funny.
Kill me.
But then they return to that joke, and I'm like, it wasn't that funny the first time. It's not great in your like climax
I
moment.
hated that.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
Because like we're starting off with this like, I bet you're wondering how I got into this situation. Like it's like a
Yeah.
crazy time, and the robots are already here, and then we're gonna do a flashback back.
Hated it.
And in the middle of this like crazy intro to the whole movie, we're like, my dad kind of seems like that YouTube video of that Gibbon. Remember that
Yeah,
YouTube video?
yeah.
Here, let me show you this YouTube video. It's really funny. I'm sure you'll
Yeah.
like it. Like it's like it reminded me of somebody saying, "Here's a funny YouTube video." And every time someone does that, you're like, "This isn't that
Well,
funny."
it was just very 2008 YouTube,
Yeah.
not like 2021. And I think most of this movie is very good at feeling like this is very 2021. This is
Yeah.
very contemporary. But some of the stuff I'm like, oh, these are 40-year-olds that designed this meme.
Every single time they put the cat filter on someone's face, where it's like meow
Yeah.
meow meow meow. Like why? No, we
A
could
couple
have done
times-
without this.
A couple times it was funny. I think the one where they have the filters on their face, but they're all different and they're like meme faces, and that one returns. I
That
think
one was
that one was
funny.
kind of funny.
Yeah. Okay, one more about the meme faces though. There's a lot of visual gags in this movie that like aren't a line, but it's just like you just see it and it's funny. And the first one that I'm thinking of is they're at the dinosaur place and it pans up to reveal the head of the brontosaurus. And
Oh.
Aaron is upset that they're not scientifically accurate, and it pans up to the head of the brontosaurus, and it's like it does not look like a
anything
dinosaur
like
head
a
at all. It just looks like a cartoon man or something.
Yeah, I laughed out loud.
That
at
was so funny. And then when the robots show up and they text the people, and they're like, "Please obey the robots.
Oh yeah.
Please do not resist the robots that are just arriving." And then it's like 3 thumbs up emojis. I was like,
Yeah.
that's funny.
This movie is laugh out loud funny. I don't know
Yeah.
if you guys found it yourself. I found myself having big laughs often.
But I
Right.
think it's because of the way they hit you. A lot of them are so abrupt that they're like spit your drink out kind of funny. Like, you don't see any of them coming.
Yeah. Oh my god, the montage at the first part when they're like road tripping and it's getting better and they're kind of like hitting their stride, but then they're like going up the Grand Canyon or whatever on the donkeys, and then there's just the shot of the donkey drowning. You're like,
Oh,
what?
yeah, that was the next level.
Yeah.
Like a lot of movies wouldn't have done any kind of animal harm at all.
They're like, what about Seabiscuit or whatever his name is?
Yeah.
They're like, he's the rivers now.
And the giant Furby. It didn't get me right away, but it fucking got to me at some
Yo.
point. When it's like, I will avenge my fallen children.
Okay, I was going to ask you guys, because I watched it with subtitles. So, like,
Yeah.
all those lines, all his...
all the Furby
the
lines
big
have
Furby-
subtitles.
Yeah, okay. They're
God, that
so
was
funny.
so
I will avenge me. Yeah, the pain only makes me stronger. So,
I don't think I saw those.
Oh, really?
oh, really?
Oh man, I missed out.
Yeah,
like,
it's funny.
When they... That was a cool moment. Like, when they show the Furbies. I usually don't love when they have these, like, explicit pop culture references in a movie like this, because I'm like, make your own thing, you know, like... But I thought the fact that it was Furbies was really funny, because it was, like, the sounds of them for real.
Yeah.
Like, it was like...
Well, and then when they like start like jumping off the bridges and like killing themselves, you're like, what is going on?
They're like, call the elder.
Yeah.
And then, so then at that point, I'm like, okay, the big Furby, I'm like, this isn't a thing.
silly,
But
yeah.
then it starts shooting lasers. And I'm like, all right, this is fully jumped the shark.
Yeah.
Like, we're in a movie with a robot apocalypse where
Yeah.
they're like flying all over the globe and doing,
Yeah.
like, things are crazy, but this is like, that takes it too far.
But even in that scene, it starts with like, oh, we're now getting attacked not by robots, but by just our internet-connected home appliances.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Which
funny.
is like kind of a wink, like, why do we have
Right.
a fridge with the Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
And I actually thought that was one of the best scenes in the movie, this whole mall sequence.
Yeah.
So it goes from that groundedness
Yeah.
to all the way to like, now we're just fighting Furbies, but I guess maybe they have a chip in them, or maybe they have some kind of function.
Sure,
Like
yeah.
the toaster is toasting things at me and like popping them, but then you get to the giant Furby, it's like, they obviously don't have lasers. They never had a giant one, it never had lasers, but it doesn't matter.
It's so funny because on one level I was annoyed where I'm like, that's stupid, but at the same time it was so funny. The fact that this like, it was Mike Rianda, the director, who also voices Aaron the kid. But we'll talk about that. Doing the voice of the of all the Furbies, and so you have the subtitles saying things like "Let the dark harvest begin," and the Furby's like. It's just like you can't not laugh.
Yeah.
It's even though I'm like annoyed at the lasers. I don't know. It was great.
I like too that they set up her Mimi YouTube channel, and that's what saves the day in the end is her like
Right.
creativity and her connectiveness to the internet.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny the first time you see it. I think like all those videos are actually really clever. Where I'm like, oh, those are like really inspired. Like they're not just like they could have done a bare minimum to be like, yeah, she wants to be a film student, she's doing her thing. But they really went the extra mile to make them like really have a spark of energy.
I
And
do
I
really-
really enjoyed them.
I really enjoy how her creative style is like you were saying, James. It's like exhibited in the movie, so we feel like there is more of a connection to her, and we get. It's almost like the movie itself and the style in which it's presented is like reflects on her character.
In some respects, that's the most characterization we get from her, is more visual.
Yeah.
Like we're almost shown more than told in
Yeah,
that
I
way.
guess so. I mean, I don't know. I can understand. There's a certain amount of like leniency that I extend to movies when they don't characterize kids a ton, because I'm like, they have growing up to do and maturing to do, and they don't even know who they are yet. You know, she's just going to film school for the like I'm assuming she just graduated high school and now she's going to film like college for the first time. So I'm like, you probably you know on some level you don't even know who you are really. You know that you're this like quirky person, you're creative, and you want to do this stuff, but like she doesn't realize the power of family and the value of that, and like the fact that her parents have gone through this stuff. She doesn't understand the broader world and like her place in it and the context. So
I think it has more to do with the fact that she's the audience surrogate. Like, it's probably if a movie is starring a kid, it's usually a kid's movie. The kid wants to embody that protagonist. Because
Right.
then you've got characters like her little brother, where, you know, like I've said before, like if you saw his words on the page, you would know it was him. If you heard Justice's voice and didn't see him, you'd know it was him. Just the way he talks frenetically, and
right,
the things he talks about, they're all very Aaron.
that's
Yeah.
true.
Where
Yeah, there are,
she's kind of a little more blank slatey.
right. At any one time, you're not entirely sure what she's gonna say, because it seems like she goes from being like, "Oh, I'm an angsty teenager," to being like, "No, this is something we have to do, and I'm an adult now."
I think though that's like the pleasure of coming of age stories is that like it's such a broad net and laser focused, and that's how we are. Is like we're like you said, we're figuring out who we are, and then we kind of arrive at like what we're growing up to be, and
Yeah.
that's why coming of age stories really work in movies. Is that it's such a broad net to capture everyone, because everyone can fit into that broad area.
Right.
And the movie kind of arrives at a spot where she's more defined, and I think it works really well for me. Like
Yeah.
I like her as a character quite a bit.
Yeah, no, I found her endearing. I liked the journey, like the core moral message here, which is that like people are different, relationships are hard, they take work, you know, and I think particularly for children, you know, it's hard for them to understand what their parents are trying to do and the difficulties and trials that they've gone through in their life. And like, so when you're a kid, you only focus on, you're like, life is so hard for me. My parents are just there to help me or to make things harder. They don't understand what's going on with my life. But
That's
it's like,
fair.
they've gone through their whole journey just to get you here. And I like that. I like that. I mean, particularly as a parent, becoming a parent recently, I'm like, dang, I wonder if my kid's gonna. I mean, he's definitely not gonna understand that right away. But like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm gonna go through this.
Yeah, it's fair. I think that I like that journey that the movie goes on, but it takes its sweet time to get going. And
Yeah.
it's at the first 30 minutes are so overly familiar. It's like okay, like a kid and their parent not communicating, like
Right.
one's caught in the old ways, one's caught in the new ways. Like that's a story that's been told a million times.
It's a goofy movie.
Literally a goofy movie is the first 30 minutes of this movie.
Yeah.
And it's fine, but I felt very frustrated by the first 30 minutes that the Mitchells aren't versus the robots until literally like 28:50 or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's. 'cause
I
you've
clicked
got-
on this thumbnail because there were
Well,
robots.
no, it's just like it's 30 minutes of like totally normal road trip
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
and it just felt like I think once the movie gets going, I love it,
Right.
but there's like a whole quarter of this movie is so generic and
I
boring.
felt that as well, and I think it has to do with the dual story setup they're doing.
Mm.
Because in a lot of movies, the inciting action that kicks off the story has to do with the characters you're looking at. You know, it's like Thelma and Louise. Like they're gonna go. The inciting action is they're gonna go on a vacation, and then they leave on their vacation, and they murder a man, and then now they're on the run, and then now we're in Act 2. But in this movie, the inciting incident is kind of there's two. It's like the family is gonna go on a road trip, and in parallel, the robots are taking over.
Yeah.
So you've got to build those both up, and then you've got to make them merge, and it just
fair.
kind of took longer.
I think for me, I agree, and I think like it's hard to do what they did and set it up more efficiently. I think the family stuff is, yeah, it's just so familiar that I think they could have used more shorthand to get it across more
Yeah.
efficiently.
And sometimes, and this is what I was saying about how like there's moments that are amazing, but then there's lots of like kind of infill that is like bleh.
Yeah.
There's, particularly in that first act, they're driving in the car and they're trying to crack jokes, but they're not landing for me.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
They're trying to have like heartstring pulling. It's just not pulling on anything. It's just meh.
Yeah,
There- yeah.
I hate when movies use pop songs as a main beat. And this movie uses a lot, and some of them I think are very effective. But
Yeah.
the so live your life.
Yeah.
I was so disappointed.
I was like,
Maya, he.
They
yeah.
started with the Maya He, and I was
know,
like, that's
yeah.
hell yeah, that's like
If you're just doing the original, like Numa Numa,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
2006
We're
kind of
too
stuff.
old. We're too old.
But of course, it would go into that other version of
the
it.
Rihanna one.
That makes
Yeah.
sense, I guess. But I was disappointed.
Lauren was like, "Oh, this makes me feel so old that was her like little kid song." It's like, didn't that just come out?
yeah, that's what
Maya,
Michaela said.
To live your life. But
It's not
like,
a bad. It's just one of those things where it's like, it just takes you out of the universe of the movie more than I think other musical cues did.
And like, how can you fight while singing this song? I hate that, man.
Well,
it's like,
yeah,
oh,
it's-
when I say he, that's when I'm gonna slash this guy
Yeah.
while riding a
I don't
surfboard
know.
that's powered by a severed android arm.
That bit
Yeah.
didn't bother me too much because I'm like, it's a Phil Lord, Christopher Miller thing. Like, by the time you're in the climax, you've suspended all disbelief about what is physically possible for these heroes
Let
to
me-
accomplish.
Phil Lord and Chris Miller, they're only the producers.
Right,
It's
but-
guys from Gravity Falls.
Yeah,
I think that's
Alex
cool.
Hirsch.
It's not Alex Hirsch.
Well,
it's
he-
the creative director.
He was a consultant on it,
Ah.
and
You
he
get-
wasn't
and,
he the
like-
creator of.
Creative director is one of the main writers.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
director.
No, I'm saying Alex
Oh,
Hirsch was the main
creator.
guy behind Galaxy, or what's his name?
Gravity
Gravity
Falls.
Falls.
Gravity Falls. But then these guys were like writers on
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
One was creative director, one
Yeah.
was a writer.
Mike Miranda and Jeff.
And you can
Rowe.
see a lot of that influence in this, not only just in like the style and the aesthetic, but in the way that the first season is nothing. It's all about the second season.
Going back to like the first act and how it kind of felt weird to not have the robots until later or whatever. I feel like that's why they did this like in medias res, like we're starting with the robot craziness and then we're gonna cut back. Just so you know, the robots are coming.
You gotta do that. That's what
Yeah.
they do that in Get Out as well.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The first scene of Get Out is when there's a guy walking in the neighborhood and a car pulls up.
Right.
And then there's like some spooky stuff. I'm not gonna spoil that movie.
I
but like if you
that
didn't,
better.
you kind of got to do that because if you don't have that opening scene, then it's just the opening scene is
Literally.
like a guy and his girlfriend at their house being like, "We're gonna go on a trip," and then they go and they drive to the parents' house and they're on a trip. But you got to be like, "Yo, guys, you're in a horror movie."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just so you know, if you walked into the wrong theater, you're in a horror movie.
I mean,
It's coming later.
I could go either way. There's a part of me that thinks the movie would be better if they didn't have that at all and just kind of like let us get to the crazy robot apocalypse naturally, because like the overall trajectory of this movie already, without the crazy robot thing in the beginning, their overall trajectory is from pretty normal to like super crazy giant Furby with lasers to like, oh my gosh, we're flying through the air, we're superheroes, like going crazy. So it's like, I don't know, I would have liked to have that like trajectory naturally happen
Yeah.
without like pushing it in my face to like, don't worry, we're gonna get to crazy robot fights. I feel like the Get Out thing was good because it doesn't fully give away what the vibe is gonna be. Like it's like something is weird here. So I feel like an analog in this movie would be like showing the robot factory or something. goes evil.
Right, but in this case, we've got like freeze frame on the car in midair. It's like, this is my crazy film.
Yeah.
We're so eccentric. We're so weird.
I bet you're wondering how I got here.
That's another. Okay.
It's almost just like a signal that your Act 1 is weak.
yeah.
Right.
Like, why didn't you just make it good enough to hook us?
Yeah. That's fair.
That's also yeah.
That's
and
fair.
That's another problem with the beginning thing is that it knocks you over the head with this "we're weird" thing, when we haven't really seen them be that weird.
No.
You know, you're in a car chase with robots. Obviously, you're going to be yelling all over the place and being crazy. That's not like an example of how weird you are. You know, the primary the thing. They didn't seem very weird to me this entire movie.
No.
The one time where I was like, that works as a demonstration that you're weird compared to other families is when they're in the roadside thing and the robots attack and the posies have this perfect
Yeah.
thing and they do yoga and get into their car and drive away in a, like
that.
perfect formation and they try to do the same thing and they completely fall on their face. And
Didn't love that.
well, I thought it was funny.
I like when the good family like huddles together and they're like, I love you so much.
And they try to do the same thing. They're like, "Yeah, you're pretty. You're
you're
great.
pretty
Yep,
good. I like
good
you.
job."
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
yep."
I thought it was
Interesting
funny.
thing about the posies is that they're not just perfect when you view them online. They're perfect in real life too.
Yeah.
It's not like they were taking a beautiful photo and then as soon as the camera went away, they like slapped the kid across the head.
That's
or
what I
something like
expected,
that.
and I'm glad it wasn't that simple.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I expected it to be like a social media family that were really rude to each other when they're not in front of a camera.
Yeah, I guess so. That does make that makes the comparison stronger. It's John Legend and Chrissy
I
Teigen
know.
and Charlene Yee.
Sure, I don't know who that is.
That she's like a comedian.
Oh, okay.
She's been in everything.
We don't know.
See you later.
Hey, what was the deal? I just have a note that's written here that says magnetic link activated. And I think that refers to like their car was driving up something vertical.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then it was falling off.
And then it said magnetic link activated and they kept driving. And I was like,
Yeah.
who did that?
So that wasn't their car. That was the pod.
No, the car drives out of it.
It does. But the car gets all the way to the top.
No.
I
But
think,
who's activating this link?
Listen, this is what I'm saying. I think your note is related to the fact that when they're in the pod, they only go upward, and the magnetic link keeps integrity when he's pushing the lever forward. And then he stops pushing the lever forward, and then it loses integrity, and they fall. But when she's driving the car, there's no like she's just going forward, and there's nothing like. It's not clear why the car keeps the magnetic link and the other one doesn't.
No, but it doesn't though. It goes and then it loses it, and then electricity grabs it and pulls it down.
Yeah, I just don't know why. That part was.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
what I'm saying though. Because the electricity
but-
didn't grab the pod
but
and
then-
pull it back; they just fell.
You're missing one part in there, but I don't know who's
You're missing a
activating
part
it.
of your
We don't
brain.
know who's activating.
I don't think this is fun for people listening, but I just thought that I was like, what the hell just happened in that spot? A part
Yeah.
that I liked was when Bowman, and as an aside, that's a 2001 Space Odyssey reference. There's two of those I noticed.
Oh.
When the robots first become sentient or they start doing their own thing, it cuts to the very next scene. The blue Danube is playing. Da-na-na-na-na.
yeah.
It's just like
Yep.
2001 Space Odyssey, same thing happens. And then I noticed that the person who creates these robots, that CEO dude, his name is Bowman, is his last name.
Right.
That Dave Bowman is the
Oh.
astronaut.
Yeah, yeah.
And I didn't even look on IMDb for this trivia, boys.
Wow.
Okay, anyway,
Nice one.
when Bowman is getting subjected to the revenge of Pal when she gets a robot to like swipe his face,
Yeah, yeah.
that was awesome.
That was really funny.
I thought that was kind of funny.
I
don't
like
know.
that a lot.
It kind, of,
I-
it kind of bothered me from like a technical standpoint because I'm like, she can't feel any of that. This isn't analogous.
Well, it's
Yeah.
interesting because if you come from the philosophy of Toy Story, Disney and Pixar always thought the essence of one of these objects would bring it like great joy. So, for example, if it's a lamp, the essence of the lamp is to shine light. The essence of the toy is to be played with.
Right.
So if it gets used for the function it was created for, that brings it joy.
We're getting
So
real deep.
that means that in this movie, you would think if they had the Toy Story philosophy, then Pal would like getting swiped.
Right.
Because it is the phone's essence to be swiped.
Exactly.
But in this case, she hates it.
There's a yeah, and I can see that, and it also bothered me because Pal is an AI assistant, so she isn't technically confined to the phone. But
Oh.
the movie acts as if the phone is her body, and she
Yeah.
like doesn't exist just out in the internet somewhere.
Yeah, they don't have Google
And
Home.
they kill her by dropping Mark Bowman's phone into a glass of water. We're in the tech sphere. We know that most flagship phones nowadays are waterproof.
Well, didn't it bounce off the cement first too?
No, it bounced off Munchies.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, that's the sequel, Riley. She's like, haha, I was in a cloud,
Yeah,
the cloud the whole
maybe.
time, obviously.
I don't want them to make a sequel. Just make a different,
Just make it a,
Yeah.
make a different thing.
I want this creative energy, but
Yeah.
this story is told. This family's story is told.
And I do appreciate, like, I want to compare this to Spider-Verse because Spider-Verse has a similar amount, maybe a bit less, of like the extra animated stuff. Like Spider-Verse is trying to look like a comic book, so we have this like, what do you call it? Onomatopoeia of text appearing on screen, like going between shots and stuff, and that's cool. But Spider-Verse had worked a lot better for me. It seems like it's more natural. It's the same thing we're talking about with Scott Pilgrim, where because it seems more naturally integrated into the medium that we're looking at, it doesn't bother it doesn't bother me as much, and it also I don't know, seems more natural.
Are you talking about like when there's a collision of different art styles? It made sense because that had unity with the story about different dimensions merging.
No, I think that Spider-Verse has a consistent like comic booky aesthetic. There are parts where it's got these like little color dots and stuff, just like a comic book, and that onomatopoeia I'm talking about. And in this one, we have
The
all this extra
onomatopoeia
stuff.
is like when it says an explosion
Like,
happens and then the text boom comes
yeah,
up.
yeah, something like that. And in this one, we have a ton of extra stuff, and we talked already about how it's consistent with our character, and we kind of like feel like we're watching her creative thing. But at the same time, it's still extra, and I'm like, you don't need this. It's completely unnecessary. It's not adding much.
Yeah, I think that this movie's not as interested in building out a universe. I think it's more interested in its moment to moment.
Yeah.
And that's both a good and a bad thing, because I think the moment to moment of this movie is very, very fun, but it doesn't have the weight or the like longevity, I think, of an Into the Spider-Verse.
Right.
Because yeah, Into the Spider-Verse doesn't ever sacrifice its believability for a joke. It doesn't like
Right.
give up its magic for like a simple moment.
Yeah.
And there's like silly moments like Spider Pig and stuff is like goofy as fuck. But it all fits into building the universe. Whereas
Right.
I think in the Mitchells, there's a lot of like, hey, we're gonna put a joke in, and like it kind of doesn't make sense, but like
Yeah.
it's funny.
I think that
Oh
you're
my
just
gosh.
you're aiming at two different goals there. On the one, you've got the gravity of having to carry on this legacy of a character that's decades old
fair.
and has
Right.
seen so many different permutations. And you're trying to be original and like respect it and honor it. Whereas in this one, it's like especially if it's just planned to be a one-off, it's like let's just make it a roller coaster
Yeah.
ride as best as we can.
And it's literally just like it's a cartoon,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you give it the benefit of that doubt, where in Spider-Verse they kind of explain in terms of some of the characters, they're from an alternate universe, and that universe has different rules. So like Spider-Pig can pull out a giant hammer or something, and that's totally fine because we're like, he's from that universe. We don't see characters from the main universe doing that because they can't. But in this show, it's like, yeah, Rick can ride two robots, in midair while firing a laser thing. It's like, yeah, sure, why not? Because it's a cartoon. If we don't
Yeah.
have any of those rules. We really need to observe.
While we're nitpicking, how about the fact that the midpoint of the movie is like they're trying to destroy all the robots by uploading, like flashing the BIOS or whatever they're doing. Right? They're trying to upload a
Kill
virus
switch, yeah.
into this laptop, and then because the Wi-Fi dies,
So
the upload stops.
Well, you don't
So
like
go,
that?
just fucking drive to a McDonald's, man.
Exactly.
Like,
That
go
didn't
to
make- they're
anywhere
like,
else
oh,
that there's
yeah.
Wi-Fi.
The internet's done. Therefore, we must go to Silicon Valley
Yeah.
and take a different approach to
Yeah.
destroy it. It's like,
Well-
why don't you just need internet again
That's a pretty
somehow?
big
And if you
Oh.
have to, and if it can't be just internet, it has to be a PAL one. Like they said before this, there's like thousands of malls, there's thousands of PAL
Right.
stores across the country, and like I get it, they have to go to the OG spot because like that's a better climax. But yeah, they need to explain it away. Like you see PAL shut down the other stores,
Yeah.
shut down the internet, like make it
Well,
impossible.
I think later in the All Is Lost moment, they actually had someone step on the flash drive. Like they
Yeah.
broke it. They should have just done that in the mall.
Okay, but
But then
except,
the
except
other-
that
the other- there
they
was-
can make another
they
USB.
can make another USB.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought that was a funny thing to do because I'm like, okay, well, he just stuck that out his finger, like he can make another one.
Yeah. So yeah, why not go back to PAL, who's like, oh, that's what they're trying to do. Diddly-diddly. Now
Yeah,
they can
that's
no
all you
longer
need
do
to
that.
do.
I think that's a plot hole, boys.
We found it.
Let's email Sony Pictures,
Phil Miller.
which is an interesting
Filler.
filler, which is an interesting thing actually because this is a Sony movie, but it came to Netflix. I think that's part of a deal.
They sold the rights because they knew they weren't going to get their money back in theaters.
Oh.
So they sold it to Netflix for 110 million.
Oh,
Uh,
so this is
This
wait,
is a full Sony animated
don't-
feature.
I don't remember what.